All right, live from Texas Brewing Inc. in Haltom City, Texas, this is You Can't Brew That on Television. And now here are your hosts, the Reverend Ryan Bono and Kyle Brewdog LaPointe.
Good evening, Internet. Thank you for the wonderful introduction, Rich. Happy Labor Day.
Happy Labor Day, everybody.
Happy Labor Day. We're having a happy Labor Day up here at Texas Brewing Inc. We are your hosts. I am the Reverend Ryan Bono.
And I am Kyle Brewdog LaPointe.
And we are here now until the end of the season to help you bridge the gap between Beer Snob and Frat Boy. Kyle, what were you doing during the off-season? The season break, I'm sorry.
During the season break, I was spending a lot of time wishing that our season would start, along with college football and pro football season.
This is an exciting time of year, everybody.
Yes, it's
Football's starting. This show is starting, and Oktoberfest is starting.
Sure.
This is an exciting time of year. I hope y'all are as jazzed about it as we are. And let's dive right into some beer drinking.
Sure. What are you opening first, Bono?
Tonight we're going to start with Hobgoblin. This is an imported dark English ale.
Okay.
And we've got a really neat theme for tonight's beers, but we're going to reveal that a little bit later.
We'll discuss it later. We're going to talk about the beers right now, and then we're going to talk about the beers and why we chose them a little bit later. But we're also going to discuss some of the things that we've got upcoming for the season. If you've noticed in the background, you can just pour me a little bit, dude. No way we can get through all three of these beers if we're drinking them all that fast. We got to pass a little bit back here to Stubby, too. All right, so we are doing our show here live at Texas Brewing Inc. So later on, we're going to have Brendan Stubblefield, the owner-operator of Texas Brewing Inc., as I pass some beer back to him. Slight bit, but we've got more here, so if you need some later, we'll get you covered. But he's going to be interviewed with us today. We're going to talk to him about his shop and his plans and what he does. And amazing facility here right in the heart of Fort Worth. You know, I love it. It's great. So close to both of us.
Yeah, it really is nice not to have to drive such a long distance to get decent home brewing supplies from somebody who knows what they're doing.
Sure.
So we're starting with the Hobgoblin, which, as I said, is a dark English ale, and this is this ale is just loaded with English character. It's got that dark English malt, the English yeast character, the dark fruits that you really like.
A lot of dark fruits, a heavy caramel flavor, but not a light caramel flavor. I mean,
the caramel
sugary,
flavor,
but it's big and it's like if you over-caramelized something in the dark caramels.
Absolutely, yeah. And this is one of my all-time favorite beers.
Good.
I really, really appreciate this stuff.
It's got a little bit of it tastes a little old, this one.
Yeah, it does.
It smells, or I guess it smells a little old. And so the taste is a little thinner than it could be because it's a little older. You can smell that in the yeast character when you're smelling it. But still, fantastic beer. It's really good. So I like it, man. It's good.
Absolutely. Very good stuff. So we've got some exciting news for you tonight. This, as we said, this is you're going to shuffle the papers to look professional. All the big guys do it. So this is an exciting time of year, as we were saying, not only around here, but in the rest of the country as well. But let's start here in Fort Worth, Texas, with RAR. RAR has some really exciting stuff going on.
They've just released their Oktoberfest, like we were talking about here shortly. I mean, just released. We found out about it minutes ago, but of course we've been a little bit off key here of late. It's been a little bit difficult with our side jobs going on, but we're getting back into the beer swing now, and so here it is, Oktoberfest release for RAR. I mean, that's good stuff.
Yeah, and Oktoberfest are getting released left and right this time of year.
My favorite time of year.
Yeah, this is a really great time of year to be a beer drinker. This is when it's just from here until the winter, just better and better beers get released the entire time.
Sure. Another thing I saw over at the Randall Mill Majestics Liquor, they have a Sierra Nevada 2010 Bigfoot Ale for like $10 instead of $13 for a 6-pack. That's a pretty good deal for a barley wine.
That's a really nice
barley
deal.
Wine that is a little over hoppy. It's an American barley wine. Perfect for go get it right now. Heat up some wax. Dip the end of it in wax so you've got it covered up and you can age it for a year or two. And that beer is going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, Bigfoot is a really nice beer to age. Sure. And big hops, it's definitely a hoppier version of the original the original American barley wine, which was the Anchor Old Foghorn. Sierra Nevada, as usual, just decided to take a great recipe and throw hops at it.
Yeah, it's a good wintertime beer anyway, so it's something you can drink right now. It's good beer. Go for it.
Yeah.
Next thing?
Speaking of winter is on the way, as I said.
It was freezing today.
It was absolutely freezing. We all
87 degrees.
87. It was pretty terrible here in Fort Worth, Texas. But like we said, Oktoberfest are getting released right now, and then going into the winter, we're going to start getting the really thick, really heavy beers, your ales, things of that nature. And
the barley wines are going to start coming out. The beers with coffee in them are going to start coming out.
Absolutely.
Mochas, porters, yada, yada.
And Rahr's whiskey warmer, their winter warmer that's aged in bourbon barrels. They just put it into the bourbon barrels this week.
That stuff's dangerous good.
Very, very exciting news, because that is a great beer.
And I think a lot of people, when they make their whiskey barrel-aged beers, it's a very common thing now for a lot of breweries across the country. They do this. I think that the way Rahr does it, they use a lighter beer in general than what most of the breweries would use, and the taste and the blend is very, very nice. So the barrels are able to give a heavy flavor that impart a very noticeable oak and vanilla flavor from the barrels, yet it's still a light enough beer to where that balances. It's not just like a big, heavy, dark, roasty beer with a little bit of oak character. You get the oak character in balance. I've always
absolutely
liked that.
the whiskey flavors and the oak flavors definitely assert themselves more in Rahr's offering than I think in most breweries.
Sure, but if you get a chance to get most breweries bourbon barrel aged,
they're all. I haven't had one that I didn't like.
It's an amazing thing because basically these are throwaway barrels from breweries.
Yeah.
They sell them because they're artisanally created by people that are craftsmen, and they're doing their job to create a barrel. I forget what the term for that is. Coopering. There you go. So you're a cooper and you make a barrel, and these guys, they're handmade. They're still to this day handmade, and they're amazing what they can do with these things. And so here, 10 years later, after they've made bourbon out of them, there's this great, basically seasoned barrel ready for doing something else with. And if you're not going to send it down to Tabasco Island to create some Tabasco, then it's a great alternative use to that stuff. Buy those barrels and brew beer and put it in there.
And one more exciting event we want to talk about, and we're both pretty excited about this, is the Dallas, I believe this is the first annual Brew at the Zoo, where they're going to be having a craft brew festival after hours at the Dallas Zoo.
Okay.
And they're going to have live music, I believe.
Live music. There's going to be a bunch of beers. It's Maggie
the
somebody
elephant?
or another. I forget. No. There's some
that's
putting it on.
Yeah.
That's also having some food out there. They're having some beer. I'm not really sure on the details. It's kind of iffy. I've heard a radio ad for it. It sounds like a lot of fun. It's definitely something that I'm going to be attending. With a 5-month-year-old. 5-month-year-old. That's right.
She's 5 months old.
So I have a 5-month-year-old at the house. So she's ready to check out a zoo. So we're going to go out there. That's this Saturday, the 10th, I believe.
Yeah.
So that's when we'll be heading out there to brew at the zoo. So check that out. I believe you can go to the website for the Fort Worth Zoo. Check that out. But, man, that sounds like a lot of fun. It's like $40. It seems a little steep, but from the beer list that it showed on there, it doesn't seem so steep. I'm really enjoying that. So.
Oh, absolutely. And now we want to take a minute before we move on to talk about our friends over at Audible.com. Audible.com is the best source of audiobooks on the Internet today. These aren't your grandpa's books on tape.
Audible has thousands of high-quality recordings performed by talented authors and voice actors.
The titles include some of the best-selling fiction and nonfiction from today, as well as a rich library of classic books.
Just use your MP3 player, smartphone, or iPod, and because there's no CDs or tapes to lug around, you get full, unabridged versions from Audible.
And I don't know about you, Kyle, but I've always really liked the idea of books, like audio books.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can listen to them pretty much wherever you are when you're doing something mindless. Like I'll take them to the gym.
Sure.
Or on a road trip or something. But in the past, it's always been such a bulky thing to do. Like, you've got to carry around a stack of CDs.
Oh, yeah, it's a booklet.
Yeah, exactly. Until now, when you can put them on your iPod and just take it with you, it's always been a real pain in the neck. But I think that the folks over at Audible are really onto something.
And they've done a good job. My wife and I subscribed to Audible back when it first came out a while back, and we were getting a book a month or a couple books a month. I forget exactly. My wife had set it all up, but it was great. She was listening to a lot of these books. We did a road trip to visit her family over in South Carolina, and that's a pretty decent road trip right there. So we did that, and we listened to a couple books while we were going out on that entire trip, and it was a lot better than our alternative, which was when we used to just read. Both of us would read our own books while we're driving, and unfortunately, the person driving had less of an opportunity to read a big book. He had to read a small book because otherwise it would get in there.
Yeah, absolutely, and definitely not a safe option.
Right.
So for you beer drinkers out there, there's a lot of choice beer books on this site too. I was looking up earlier this book. George Wendt, the guy who is Norm on Cheers.
Yeah.
He wrote a book a while back called Drinking with George, and it's just kind of his thoughts on brew. And I got a little segment of it here.
Bernadette's grandfather taught her twin brothers to walk by holding out a beer can. Maybe it's a regional thing. French babies might love wine, while Russian rugrats enter the world with a taste for vodka. I wouldn't know. In Chicago, beer is pretty much synonymous with mother's milk.
So that's pretty cool. It's like a lot of time these books that Audible puts on, they're actually done by really professional voice actors, and they do full-blown production. It's not a crap cheap deal. And in this case, it was the author himself reading it. You get like a comedian or a TV personality doing that. It's kind of fun.
Sure.
But anyway, back to you guys.
So for our viewers, Audible has a free 14-day trial offer of their gold membership, including one free book of your choice. So go to our special URL at audible.com/Lone Star to sign up tonight.
The gold membership is a great way to start. It's one book a month from a library of more than 85,000 titles, and the free book is yours to keep at www.audibletrial.com/Lone Star.
All right, so moving along into tonight's topics, we're going to have our promised interview here in a minute.
Here it is.
But after the interview, and probably during the interview, I think we're going to touch on this a little. We're going to talk about this year's Brewing Bowl.
Sure.
Last year's Brewing
Bowl
Bowl was a really big success. The beer was fantastic, and we got a lot of positive feedback from viewers that it helped them learn. It helped them learn about the brewing process a little bit more in depth, being able to follow the evolution of a beer week by week.
Sure. And
so
Brendan is joining us right now, everybody. This is Brendan Stubblefield, owner-operator of Texas Brewing Inc. Fantastic establishment here on 121 and Haltom Road. You can't miss it on the highway next to the scuba sign. That's the way I always look at it.
Yeah, I look for the scuba sign as well.
That's right, on the northbound 121 access road. So it's kind of northbound. It's really more northeast during this section of road, but coming straight out of downtown, you can't miss it. It's a wonderful location. It's so central to everybody here in the mid-cities and Fort Worth area. And it's a great store. It's well-stocked. It's huge. And if he doesn't have it, he will have it for you in 2 days. And if he has it for you in 2 days, he will have it for somebody else from then on. You know, he's fantastic about that.
Well, I just want it's a great opportunity to talk to you guys and kind of tell you a little bit about what we're trying to do here at Texas Home Brewing, and what we really wanted to convey to the audience out here is that we want to. One of the reasons that I started my own homebrew store is because I'd gone to numerous of the other ones in the metro area as well as other ones in the state. And the one thing that I really didn't ever feel that, I never felt like I was at home. And one of the things that I really truly love about the home brewing community is that it's a really neat. Everybody loves each other. It's just everybody helps each other. It's a really great social aspect to be a part of.
Sure.
And I never felt like when I went to these homebrew stores that I was getting the same vibe that I did when I went to homebrew club meetings or homebrew club competitions and stuff of that nature. And one of the things that I want to convey here is I want people to feel welcome here. I want them to feel like they can come in, they can browse, they can have a good time, feel free to ask questions. That was the thing that I felt like was missing in our community.
And I know, Stubby, you did an awful lot of research going into this. Mm-hmm. He came to homebrew club meetings, he came to competition, and he basically asked all his questions. What do you want in a homebrew store?
Individually to each person. I thought that was fantastic. That you basically polled the public, of the brewing area and said, what's missing? What are you missing from your homebrew store experience? Because to me, I tell you what I was always missing was I can't go to a local store and buy what I need.
Right.
And sometimes with the way Bono and I's schedules are, we like to brew together, but sometimes that works out to where it's like, hey, dude, 2 days from now, you want to brew? Yeah, we can brew. Let's do it. All right. We'll find, I had a cancellation. Let's do it. Let's get together. Let's brew. And you try to get the equipment and materials together for something like that, and you're
driving all over town.
Yeah, and if you get what you want,
driving
here
to there. Yeah, exactly. And the selection that he carries here is very extensive. He is a home brewer,
right?
Which I think is a big part of it. Yeah,
an award-winning Bluebonnet Stein winner. So.
Yeah, and so he is a home brewer. He knows what homebrewers want, but based on his own experiences as well as actually polling the homebrew community.
Right.
So tell us about some of the events that you hold, because you say that you want to feel like you're at home here.
Well, one of the things that kind of playing off what you said there was basically that was one of the reasons me as a home brewer, I would go to certain places or whatnot, and it's very frustrating to go in and you have a recipe that you want to make, and then you have to change it, or you just you're not able to brew it at all.
Yeast. Yeah. Okay, well, this yeast is close, or we don't have that yeast.
Me as a home brewer, I thought, you know what, there's a lot of room for something that I think that there's a need there that needs to be filled,
Sure.
And one of the great things I think is me being a homebrewer, I have a really passion for it, and I want to teach people. I really like to teach people. So that's one of the things that we're going to do here is we're going to have some classes. We're going to do brew-ins. We're going to have equipment, get-togethers, try to discuss different ways of making our homebrew equipment better. Also, we're going to have classes. We're going to do beginner classes. If you're once you're a beginner and you're doing extract and you want to go up to, all grain brewing, we're going to have classes for that. And then eventually, at some point, we would also like to do advanced classes for advanced brewers. We might have a special seminar on yeast or something of that nature.
Maybe do something a little more advanced technique-wise. Right. Maybe do, a decoction mash or something along those lines. Sure, something that not everybody's done. And
so truly get into some of the really deep details as well. So there's something for everybody, and that's what's really neat. We've also had some of the judgings. Of different beer competitions here.
Done some of our club competitions here.
So it's a lot of fun.
How many people have you signed up for our local homebrew club, the Cap and Hare?
Yeah, it's 30, 35, 40,
Excellent.
It's
something
amazing
like that nature.
How many people jump out through the woodworks, and because of the way that Brendan has proactively advertised his company and set things up, he found people that we've been around as a club for a long time, and we've been growing at a steady pace for about the last 3 years. And then all of a sudden, here comes this store, and boom, 3 months later, we have a phenomenal increase in our membership because of Brendan, because of this store.
Very good representative, I think, for the homebrew community in general, and the Cap and Hare Club specifically.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, that's one of the neat things, too, is when I opened this store, I never had any idea at the depth of the homebrew community that's out there that's not involved in homebrew clubs.
Yes, there's a
lot of
there's
people
a lot of guys
that
that are truly advanced brewers, been brewing for 5-6 years.
I remember you and I joined the club at very similar times within a month of each other. And I was amazed at how much further along in the brewing process you were than me. We're talking about stuff, and I realized very quickly on that, oh my gosh, this guy's pretty good at what he does. He's got a great system, and he's very knowledgeable. And I know a thing or two, but it's like one of those deals where it's like, man, I couldn't believe that somebody who was just getting into a club would have that much knowledge.
Well, and I hate to say this because I messed up. I should have joined a long time ago because I took twice as long to get to the level that I was at than I would have if I would have joined a local club, because that's one of the beauty. The beauty of the homebrew community is they're more than willing to share. If they have a award-winning national, competition or a beer, they'd be more than happy to share their recipe with you.
And what was that? Was that Brandon that was in here that you directed a question to me yesterday?
Yes.
And Brandon was in here. He's asking a question about batch sparging, and it was basically, I'd done all this research and yada yada. But long story short, he had looked on all these different message boards, done all this different things, but really all he needed to do was talk to a couple of homebrewers who had done what he had done and answer his question, because he had gotten to the point where he knew he knew it was right. He was doing it right, but he was unsure because, this program said to use this much water, and this said to do this, and this website said to do this, and he had gone through all these exhaustive procedures just to go through and find all this information where really a 5-minute conversation with Brendan and I, and boom, the guy's like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I know I'm on the right path.
Well, and I think that's a lot of. Sorry to interrupt you there, but I think that's part of the problem with with homebrewers in general is. I don't want to look. When I first started brewing, I didn't want to look stupid or dumb, and didn't want to ask questions, because I'd feel like I'm not,
Well,
it's kind of an ego thing,
right? You like to follow directions. You start homebrewing because
you like to drink beer.
That's
right. So I think. I think some people are a little timid at first, and I don't think you should be timid at all because
no, absolutely not.
I think
we all started somewhere.
Yes, I agree. But that's kind of what the community that I want to convey here is. If you're in here and you want to hang out and you want to talk to some other homebrewers, hey, that's what it's all about.
Sure.
So
let's talk about this beer real fast.
Exactly what I was just about to say. Let's talk about the beer that Kyle just poured for us.
St. Bernardus Prior 8. This is a double.
Yeah.
And to me, this is one of the best doubles you can buy. I can't believe we can buy a bottle of this for like $10 at most stores or $11 or whatever I paid today. But to me, it's fantastic. It's high alcohol,
very
beer.
high alcohol
for an 8. You could smell it coming out of this Guinness glass. It just funnels through your nose. So you catch that, but you also catch some of the dark sugars and.
There's definitely a lot of like candy sugar, dark sugar going on in here. That this is a really really neat beer.
But live yeast. So there's live yeast at the bottom of this, and live yeast from a brewery that's renowned as being maybe one of the best breweries in the world, with Westvleteren. And, we're just enjoying this one right now. I think it's fantastic.
Fantastic.
Any beer by St. Bernardus is going to be great, but to me, the 8, I just think it's better double than most doubles you can get.
Right.
My personal opinion, taste-wise.
Okay.
So
yeah, I mean, I definitely agree that this is a fantastic representation, certainly of style.
Yeah, and because it's on live yeast, a classic thing that people say about doubles is that they get a little stale. But because it's on live yeast,
you don't get that at all.
Yeah, it can be 2 years old and it can get better.
Right.
So
yeah, I think this Hobgoblin that we had might have been a little bit stale, but this
it was still good.
It was still delicious, but
stale.
yeah, you don't get that at all with the Bernardus, right? And that's something again that's common with bottle conditioned beers. And I think we've talked about that. Let's talk about that in an episode this fall. Let's talk about bottle conditioned beers.
And what else are we going to talk about in some episodes here coming up?
We're going to talk about the Brewing Bowl a whole lot. Yep. So, Stubby, why don't you start thinking up styles? Well, last year we made a Scotch ale, like a full-on heavy Scotch, so we don't want to do that one again. But give some thought to some styles you might want to see us research and then make. We've got some really neat segments lined up for this fall, though.
Yep.
We're talking about, as Oscar season rolls around, we're talking about doing movie pairings with movie pairings, beer pairings with movie theater.
Well,
food.
I think movie pairings would be good
movie
too.
pairings.
What
what beer goes with what movie? I like that idea.
And if you're going to watch a Kevin James movie, you need a very high alcohol beer and you need a large quantity of it.
And Rohypnol.
Yes,
that'll help you really enjoy a Kevin James movie
because you will feel like you got raped after you left that movie.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're gonna pair. I keep saying pair movies. We're going to pair movie theater food with beer.
So movie theater food. You got
nachos.
nachos?
Nachos. You got popcorn.
Yeah. So you've got hot dogs, right? We've got candy.
Yeah.
Candy should go in there. A lot of these things that I don't eat anymore because I'm on the Megan, as I'm calling it now, the devolution diet.
Okay.
We can talk about that at another time. But
we're talking about unveiling a Mythbusters segment this fall.
That'll be fun.
And we're pretty excited about this. It's going to take a lot of work, but I think it's going to be worth it.
Sure.
Specifically, the one that we've dreamed up so far is there's a myth out there, and it may or may not be fact. We'll find out. The myth is that mead gives you a more serious, more horrible hangover than beer.
And so this will be probably a 2-part episode because there's no way we can test this without a sample segment. So what we will do, hopefully...
We're going to get rip-roaring drunk on beer.
And then we'll get rip-roaring drunk on mead.
Yeah, we're going to try to do this in consecutive weekends. We're going to try to eat the same beer. We're going to try to control the experiment as much as possible. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be a really neat segment.
Rich?
Before we get rolling too far, remember, thanks, Stubby, for having us out.
Oh, shoot, yeah. Stubby has been more than a gracious host, and he was a gracious host for us yesterday as we did our fantasy football draft with several of the other club members and a good bunch of people. But just that's the kind of things that Stubby does at his shop. He's able to promote not only the home brewing atmosphere, but just the fact that those in the home brewing community have other hobbies that they have an interest,
right.
and they can come together and do those hobbies as a group. And because you're a like-minded people that you enjoy spending time with, it's fun no matter what you're doing.
Right.
And we've done that throughout the years as club members. We did a whiskey tour down in Waco at the very first distillery that has been created since Prohibition in Texas. So,
right. So definitely a big thank you to Stubby for letting us come on out here tonight. And Stubby, every year, I'm sorry.
I want to make sure we give him use the chance to get all the details about how to find a store online.
Right.
Sure, yeah.
That's one of the things that we definitely would like to talk to you guys about as well. We're going to have a full online store that's coming soon. If you go to our web address is www.texasbrewinginc.com.
You can find them on Facebook as well.
Yeah, if you go there now, it's
a
completely in development.
Right now.
But we will have a full complete store that you can order online anywhere in the U.S.
I tell you this, it's already better than some of the other local homebrew stores who are not considering theirs.
Right.
Works in progress.
Also, you can find me at Facebook.com. I always I put weekly specials up there. It's Facebook.com/Texas Brewing.
Yep.
I do weekly specials up there. If we get new equipment in, we do that.
He did a special just the other week. He gave away some grain to the next customer that was coming in to start a batch, and I thought that was fantastic.
That was a really neat idea.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's really great. Next person who comes in gets enough grain to do a 5-gallon batch, and it's like, boom, man, come on, get over there, take care of that.
But
that's awesome.
But be sure to check those out. And I'm located in Haltom City. If you're in the Metroplex,
which is
really easy to
Fort
get
Worth.
to. Right off of 121, I'm on the south side of the road. Just past the Haltom Street exit. You go
Haltom Road, you exit if you're going towards Fort Worth, you whip a Yui. If you're going away from Fort Worth, you just exit and go straight through the light.
Right, and you can also contact me.
Make sure it's green.
My phone number here is 647. Oh, wait a minute. 682-647-1267. I can't even remember.
You're one of the
my phone number.
682.
Yeah,
one of the new numbers.
Right? 682 numbers.
That's fantastic.
So before we lose you, what kind of style would you like us to see? Would you like to see us do at the Brewing Bowl this year? I can't talk tonight.
That's a good
And
question.
our Brewing Bowl. We've talked to you about that maybe
right.
off the air several times, but our Brewing Bowl, we do a live brewing session and then immediately follow it up with the January 1st Bowl Day of college football, which is something I know you share a great love for. And, although we're on two different schools, we love to banter about college football.
Absolutely.
Texas Tech, Oklahoma, it's just like, it's so much fun. So we could do a whole show just about college football.
Definitely
anyway, we're not going to get into that. So what kind of styles on January 1st would you think would be a good one for us to brew?
Well, I personally, I love German styles.
Okay.
So I love alt beers or... and you might even consider doing something with a decoction mash, just to kind of to mix things up a little bit.
I love decoction mash. I'm a big fan of that.
He is a big fan of decoction.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Nobody saw that coming.
So I kind of like the alt beer thing.
I like that. I think that's a good idea.
One thing about the Brewing Bowl is I don't necessarily want to do a decoction mash on the Brewing Bowl. Last year we did the huge
freezing cold too,
and it's a lot of time.
Yeah, you're outside for a long time.
College football. Last year we got in and we got done in time for the TCU Wisconsin game, which was just out of this world entertaining. What a great football game. Almost as good as the Baylor TCU game that happened here this last Friday night. So I'm good with alt beer, which alt beer basically it's a German style. You brew it. Everything is very similar to a lager, but you use an ale yeast and you ferment it at a lager temperature.
Right.
You ferment it at a lower temperature. Not quite as far as to a lager, but 52 degrees instead of maybe 65 like you would normally do it. And we accidentally did that with our very first beer.
We absolutely did.
We didn't have temperature control for our fermentation at the time, and it sat in the brewery where our brewery did not have any temperature control in the house at that time. So it was like about 55 degrees in there pretty much every day through the winter, and fermented out. Turned out to be a fantastic beer.
Yeah, so I think that's a good idea. Let's do alt beer. Well, this year's Brewing Bowl will be alt beer. Thanks for the idea, Brendan. Thanks for stopping in.
Really appreciate you stopping in.
Thanks for letting us broadcast.
Anytime.
Anytime.
We really appreciate you stopping in at your own store.
Yeah, it was really nice of you to be here. Yeah, so we're going to do alt beer. We're going to research the style, and we're going to bring you a lot of information about it over the next couple weeks.
Yeah,
and then,
sure.
Then,
next week we'll bring in a bunch of information. We'll do more than just the basic stuff we just gave you, because I like the style, and I've had plenty of it. Went to Germany, had a few of those, and that was my favorite style over there. So I'm actually excited about this. I think that's a great idea.
I think it's going to be really cool.
We've never brewed one. I've never brewed one.
I've never brewed one.
So this is great. We're going to learn from you guys who will help us create this recipe out there in the internet world. You'll be able to help us design this recipe. It's something that we did last year. We'll not only research the topic and talk about it, but we'll talk about methods to make the beer. We'll talk about ingredients, and by the end of the season, we'll come up with a recipe. And then after that recipe is done, we'll create that recipe, and we'll brew that recipe live on January 1st. It's a lot of fun.
It's a really neat segment. We had a great time doing that last year. Actually,
it was cold last year,
yeah,
man.
And actually, this segment was the brainchild of Honky the tech guy. This entire thing was his idea. So.
And Honky's one of our call-in guys. He comes in and shows up. We do some segments with him, and he does our iPhone apps and our. Hopefully, we can get him to do some Android apps here one of these days. But I think we need to buy him an Android first. But hey, if anybody has a dead Android out there they're not using it anymore, maybe they can donate it to our tech guy, Honky.
Yeah, that would be very kind.
The guy is phenomenal. He has done some good reviews. He introduced Untapped to us.
He absolutely did. Now it's an obsession.
Yeah, an obsession of Bono's, and it's
thanks by the way.
And to me,
speaking of which, I haven't logged in tonight's beers.
Untapped is pretty neat. I lost interest in it. I can't do it anymore because
you got to keep up with it.
If you don't keep up, to me, I get really mad if I miss something. I'm liable to throw it away.
Yeah,
and I got a lot of stuff going on, so sometimes I don't remember to get on there. And I've had several nights where Untapped was being slow, and I burnt my battery, and then forget to log it in. But nowadays, with the way they do it, you can log beers in faster. You can look at what your friends have drank. So if you were drinking the same things like we were doing tonight, where we're sharing the same beer, you can log into everything Bono logged into the next night. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
he's got an Android tablet. He's got an Android tablet, huh?
Yeah, so he'll be able to start helping us with that. Well, let's first discuss what the beer we're drinking right now. This is a Young's Double Chocolate Stout.
When you smell it, you smell a little bit of roast, but a huge chunk of chocolate. I mean, it smells like chocolate. It really does. Dark chocolate, I wouldn't say it smells like milk chocolate, but in the flavor, you get a little bit of milk chocolate. It's just one of these styles of beer that's transcendent amongst all beer drinkers, because this is the kind of thing that you can bring your wife to the bar and say, "Oh, you don't like beer, honey? Just try this, and we'll get you a little bowl of ice cream." And maybe you can make a float out of it. Maybe you can eat the ice cream at the same time. But it is a great dessert beer.
Yeah, it really is. It's loaded with chocolate malt as well as actual German dark chocolate. So we selected 3 very different beers tonight. Sure. I think we got a really neat representation here. This
is a great representation.
I think
of what
it is.
We were trying to accomplish.
So let's talk about the theme that Kyle and I had in mind when we selected these beers.
It's Labor Day.
Today is Labor Day. So
sure.
what did we decide to go? This was your idea. So you
all right?
You do
well,
it.
To me, the idea of Labor Day brought up the fact that we just had a recent child, and we had a recent child through natural childbirth methods with a midwife, and we did it at a birthing center as opposed to a hospital. So, if you want to contact us on any of that stuff, you can hit us up on our website, Dog Lake Brewery, or you can hit me up on my Facebook. And anyway, we can discuss that kind of stuff if you're interested. But beyond that, one of the things that they discussed with us was the benefits of drinking beer during labor. And so in conjunction with the fact that it is Labor Day, we are going to discuss which beers are good to drink when in labor. And
so the beers that you were told were generally dark beers,
dark
right?
beers.
Now, I know that you did a lot of research on the subject.
Sure.
I did.
At the time,
I
definitely did.
Yeah, I did a tiny bit of research just because I wasn't actually birthing a child.
Right.
So my research wasn't as extensive as yours. But let me start with the Hobgoblin. And the reason I selected the Hobgoblin is that traditionally English midwives, when an English woman got pregnant, she generally found out a month or 2 in, and one of the first things she did was she brewed a batch of beer. And it fermented for the next 6 to 7 months while her baby matured. And then during delivery, she and the midwife both got sloshed.
Yeah.
So I brought in a traditional English dark ale which is very similar to what they would have been drinking during the childbirth.
And I think that's a great idea. What we've also heard over the years is that it's dark beers. You look for quote-unquote
dark beers.
Yeah. And I took that with a grain of salt because, as we've discussed on topics in previous shows, the difference between a dark beer and a light beer can mean a lot of different things to a person in the know about beer. So you can have a beer that's black as night that tastes like Miller Lite.
Ugly Pug.
Yeah, exactly. You've got a really light-flavored beer. It's just black. Well, anyway, something that I started to think about was, okay, well, the people that are recommending this are doing this. Why? And it's because they have readings and they've got different thoughts. And, okay, well, why would you have done a dark beer as opposed to a light beer? Well, the reason why that I felt like they have made that suggestion and that alternative as opposed to light beer is the fact that what they're trying to say is don't drink a Bud Light or Miller Lite or something that has very little nutritional aspects to it. They're saying drink a dark beer which has more, not only more flavor in general, but it also has more nutrients in it. And I took that a step further, and I said, well, when they were originally doing this, it was live beer, like you said.
Oh, yeah.
They were drinking live beer. So I took that to the next step, and that's why I said St. Bernardus, because it's still got yeast active in this beer. So what Megan and I talked about, and beers that Megan has always enjoyed have been sour beers or beers that were made with yeast of Belgian character, something she's very much liked. So that's what we brought to the birthing process. So when we were having Charlotte, and I said we because I was there, I was helping, fighting through the deal. So anyway,
and drinking beer.
I didn't get to drink it. We actually did not end up drinking any beer during the process. We opened some later on that evening as a celebration. But the thing is, though, that with this labor, what they say a lot of times is the problem is with labor is that women get too intense and they get too tight and they basically can't let their body do the normal thing because they're trying to force it. Well, what a beer does is it just relaxes you. It just it's enough alcohol to relax you, but it's enough nutrients to also sustain you. So to me, I felt like an Abbey 8, a Belgian Double, which is usually 6 to 8.5% alcohol, somewhere in there. Plenty of alcohol, plenty of sugar. There's vitamin D vitamin B12 with all the yeast. It's just all these good things that can help you out when you're. They survived for years and with monks brewing this stuff during Lent. That's why they created these big heavy beers. Was for that. So that's why I pushed towards that. That was what I thought was a good beer for that. And also they say that this is equally beneficial for a woman who is serving breast milk, so to their baby, if you're actually breastfeeding your baby as opposed to feeding with any sort of carnation formulas or anything like that, then, this is also something that's beneficial. They say a beer a day, a dark beer a day. And I, again, took that and I said, let's look at that and say, okay, instead of a dark beer, let's look at it for what it's intended to be, which it's been kind of changed over the years to be dark beer, real beer, a beer with yeast in it. So that's the way we looked at it.
So for my second selection, I took the dark beer concept to heart.
Yeah.
And actually, and I have to thank my wife for coming up with this idea. She actually suggested the chocolate stout because it has chocolate, which induces the release of endorphins.
Yeah, that's great.
And so absolutely, and that's why I decided to go with the Young's Double Chocolate Stout, which is delicious whether you're in labor or not. It's a fantastic beer.
I hope I'm not in labor right now.
I'm not. I was earlier, but it passed.
Right.
So I was
that's usually what it. For me, it passes a pound at a time.
Yeah, roughly.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing I did dig up during research for this. And evidently, Mariah Carey recently, or I guess whenever she gave birth, I didn't look at the date on these articles. It might have been a few years old. But I guess when she was in the hospital, she drank a Guinness.
Good.
Yeah, exactly. And had CPS called on her. But,
really?
Yeah. Yeah, so
again, the reason why if you're going to have a child, don't have it at a hospital. Don't have it at the place where you take your sick people. Come on.
And a lot of the boards that I found about drinking beer during pregnancy, delivery, or feeding, there was an awful lot of hatred out there directed towards people who do this. So don't broadcast it if you are a female planning to give birth and planning to engage in this behavior.
I think it's getting more and more press as people are doing it, and their children are performing and outperforming the children.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're seeing that there is a definite flaw in the process of going into a hospital, taking antibiotics, doing all this. There's all kinds of things. But again, whole nother episode. We'll get into that. But so labor is beer.
Beer,
right? We drink beer during labor. And
English ale.
If you're doing a traditional labor process where the man stays out of the room, he should be drinking beer because he should be fretting over his wife's safety during this situation. And if you're doing one of the more newfangled deals like we did, I'm in the room and I'm scared to death and I'm going, okay, where's the beer? Because I should be loaded right now. Actually, I wasn't thinking that. I wasn't thinking at all. It's just instinct kicks in. So anyway, we go through all that. But anyway, Megan actually did the chiropractor route, had a chiropractor come in and adjust her right before, which sent her process spiraling. It was amazing the way that worked out. So whatever it takes to calm down the woman, to let her relax and start letting the body actually take over and do the thing, that's what you need.
So just good advice to keep in mind on your Labor Day.
It's a beer.
That was bad. All right, let's talk about next week.
All right, what's next week?
Next week we're going to talk about alt beer.
Are we going to talk about alt beer? We're going to talk about alt beer because that's our brewing bowl.
Yeah, because that's going to be our brewing bowl, where I'm sure we're going to have more news and more delicious beer. Actually, let's go ahead and have the Raw Gravel Road next week.
You want to do the Gravel Road? Or you want to do their new Oktoberfest? Oh, well, yeah, the Gravel Road, alt beer. I like it.
So next week we're going to taste Raw Gravel Road. If you can get it, make sure go ahead and find some.
Anywhere in Texas has it.
Yeah.
I've had it recently, and I was very happy with it. I thought it was a little bigger than I've had with some of the other styles.
A little bit. Yeah, it definitely stretches the style a little bit, but that's fine.
Okay.
That's acceptable.
So we've had it. So, if you're still watching, we've had it, but we'll have it again. It may be different now. One thing great about local breweries is every batch to batch, isn't necessarily identical.
Yeah.
An amazing thing about Miller Lite and Coors Light is the fact that every batch to batch, is identical. That's an amazing feat of technology.
Yeah, a very, very difficult thing to do. As much as people can rip on those beers, that is an amazing feat that they accomplish week in and week out. So let's go ahead and leave it at. Did you have anything to add before we sign out?
2 and 3, which actually is 5.
Okay, 2 plus 3 is 5. And while you're working that one on your calculator to back check us, just keep in mind that we are not professionals.
So please try this at home.
This agitation, frustration, the memorization of the things I'm gonna.
That's why I was trying. That's why I was trying to push this along. So I was like, we can go an hour and a half if we want tonight.
Let's trim it down. Let's cut it back.